Welcome to Is Anybody Listening to Me podcast with Azar and the Meat. This is our Super Bowl edition. We are finally at Super Bowl week. We survived COVID. The football season survived COVID, actually, I should say more accurately. And we made it to the Super Bowl. A lot of people didn't think we would even get this far, but we did. So we're excited, even though the Patriots are not in it. We're excited to talk about it, break down, make our predictions. And since Big Meat has already made his predictions all the way to the Super Bowl and picked the Bucs, we had to bring our third man in, Jarvis, to add a little bit of a different perspective on it because we didn't want Big Meat just to talk about Brady for the whole time. Let me welcome Big Meat. How's it going?
Good, and that is true. Yeah, I'm not. I'm sticking to my pick of the Bucs. I'm not switching at all. I don't. I stayed with them all throughout. So yes, go Bucs and go Brady.
Well, it is exciting that we actually made it this far. I really did have my doubts when we started having. I think ironically, I think it was Mahomes and the Chiefs that were having the first COVID, I think they were the first COVID scare, right, in the beginning of the season.
I think that was the first big game. Yeah, I think that was when it first came out. Yeah, that was Mr. Roper's panic attack that he had about Mahomes missing a game.
Yeah, and he was going to disrupt the whole season just to accommodate him. But the nice thing is that the funny thing is that the team that had the first scare, they all got infected and they all made it all the way through to COVID. So no risk for them. So they're good to go. So it's very exciting. But before we dive into the Super Bowl, because a lot of people, unlike our third man, have started watching WandaVision, or as he would call it, Wonkavision. So a lot of people have started jumped in and watched episode 4. So there's a lot of questions. So Big Meat and I are just going to touch just a little bit on what episode 4, because Big Meat called it. I forget her first name. Is it Elizabeth Olsen? Is the actress? She did say episode 4 will tie things together, and she wasn't a liar because Big Meat said if that didn't happen, we'd have to call her a liar. Episode 4 was really well done in finally giving you a clue on what's going on, and it actually got the show even more exciting. I can't wait for episode 5 now to see where they go from episode 4. So I wanted to get your perspective on it, Big Meat.
Yeah, she was right. And she did say that's when it's going to start tying things together and you're going to start understanding a little bit more as to what's going on. I think from this point on, you're going to go back and forth. It's not going to be the full episode where you see WonkaVision or what was the other thing you called it? Wanda Sykes. Those two names are going to stick. It's not going to be like the full episode where they're in the sitcom. I think they're going to bounce back and forth, which is good. It breaks up the episode. Not that the episode is as long as it is. It's 25 minutes long each episode. But I do like where they did tie it in, and they had a couple of those flashbacks there to kind of explain a little bit the first few episodes. So now that's kind of caught up. So now everything from here is going to be new. But my theory from last week, I don't think is true anymore. I don't think. From what I said, how they may be dead. Yeah, after that episode, I'm not so sure anymore. So I think I was wrong on that one.
Well, I almost thought you were right because, in spoiler, when she saw Vision, because once her focus was kind of rattled, because I think she's keeping that whole thing alive through her powers, right? And it's her when she's able to switch it and jump timelines and everything. So she has the control of it. And when she got rattled by that woman saying Ultron and killing her brother, when Vision came in, he looked dead. So I was like, oh, maybe Meat is right. Maybe they're all dead, and she's made them alive. So I don't know if you actually have been proven wrong at this point yet, because she's able to turn the switch, and she brought him back to he looked alive. But that was kind of a creepy scene when he had that stone ripped out of his head.
I know that was a little bit that was pretty neat. Yeah, I mean, it's not out of the question that might be happening. I'm trying to remember the beginning of that episode. Was it? Now this is a little bit of a spoiler here, Jarvis. I'm sure. Who, by the way, Jarvis is on the podcast. Welcome, Jarvis.
I don't think you want me to chime in yet.
No, we don't want you to chime in yet. No, we just mute his mic.
Yeah.
But I will throw out a little bit of a spoiler here. What when they found out at the beginning of that episode about the town? Did that town exist before, or did they say it just never existed?
The two cops said that town never existed in because they were in Pennsylvania. And they
Okay.
said there's like an East View, but she lives in West View, and there is
Yeah.
no West View. So she created a town on her
Okay.
own.
So maybe they are all dead in it because if there's no, because they said there was like a missing person that they're trying to find who we're still trying to, that was never revealed, right? Who that missing person is. I don't think. And so, yeah, it could still be Ed, but I don't know. I don't think so. Just the way the whole story played out there. But you do recognize the characters that are in that, right? Like the Asian guys from the
Oh yeah.
Ant-Man
Well,
movies,
you know,
and
I actually wrote a note to comment on him because I am surprised. His name is Jimmy Woo, and
yeah,
he's from the Ant-Man 2. And I guess when I looked into it, I guess I didn't realize he was an agent of Shield because we've only seen him as an FBI agent. But I guess he's an ex-agent of Shield that when it disbanded went to the FBI. I guess that's kind of the
right.
backstory on him. But he's kind of like a weird character because he's kind of like a cheesy character, and he kind of doesn't fit. Like when in Ant-Man, he was like an odd character because he was like comical, and I'm like, I don't understand this character. He seems too cheesy, and I didn't realize he was so popular that they were going to bring him into like WandaVision. Like it just didn't make sense to me that.
Yeah, I think for like comedy relief, he's kind of like that type of character. Him and the other girl there, Darcy,
Yeah,
from the Thor movies,
yeah.
like they were kind of funny together. But if you notice that one scene when he pulled out the card trick, and he did like the little trick, and he gave the business card, and he did a little trick where like the card just appeared in his hand. That's the same trick that Ant-Man pulled on him. Remember? And he was like, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And so it's kind of a little bit of a callback, like, "Oh, he learned that card trick from
Yeah,
the
it
Ant-Man
was nice.
movie."
They
So,
tied in. They're bringing characters from
yeah,
other movies, and they keep them. So it's nice to see familiar faces, especially if you're just getting into the show. You'll tie them back to the movies. So and
yeah,
again, I think they're doing a good job because it makes you want to go watch those movies. So it's like, well, where is she from? Oh, she's from Thor. Now you got to go back and watch it to kind of see how is she this astro? She doesn't look like an astrophysicist, like this brilliant woman. Like unless you
yeah,
watch
yeah.
Thor, you wouldn't know that. Like
Right,
her
right. Yeah,
background. So.
yeah, and I think they've done it before where they've pulled in a couple of little minor characters and put them into other movies, but they couldn't do it before because there was only so many Marvel movies. Now that they have over 20 Marvel movies with all these characters, because you always wonder, hey, whatever happened to that character? How come that character doesn't appear anymore? Or what is that person up to? I like how they're bringing the side characters into now that they have the Disney Plus streaming service and all these shows coming out. I could see a lot more other side characters kind of popping up here and there in all these shows, which
Yeah,
I
no,
like it. I
it
like
was
it.
well
It
done.
ties it all together better.
Yeah, I was wondering how they were going to recap and tie, like explain everything, but it was very well done. It was kind of creative that she was watching Darcy was watching what we were watching on TV at the same, like almost like it was real time. So I thought that was pretty creative. So well done. We're not going to go too deep into WandaVision because this is a Super Bowl episode and we got our third man waiting for us. But we liked it, and we'll try to go more in detail for after episode 5 because there's only 5 more episodes left for the season, right? You said there's only 9 for the season.
There's only 9. Yeah, there's only 5 more episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're at the midpoint. So I think things are going to start to heat up at this point.
And this is going to be the next show now that Jarvis finally has Disney Plus, which is a big announcement to make on this podcast. We won't get into the Mandalorian too much, but the fact that Jarvis has actually watched the Mandalorian now, both season 1 and season 2, since the podcast from when the last time he was on it 2 weeks ago. Congratulations to Jarvis for finally pulling the trigger on that and being able to binge watch all those shows. Now he's just got to catch up on WonkaVision, and he's good to go.
Can you imagine? He lives in Middle Earth without Disney Plus. Now has Disney Plus at his fingertips. His world just opened up so much more for him. And all he has to do now is get HBO Max and actually be able to watch Game of Thrones, and he'll appreciate how well done.
I don't think he will ever go back to watch Game of Thrones. That's not happening.
It's a shame because the first season has so much nudity in it that you would suck you back in just from that first season. But hey, I'm just trying to tell you that it's option 2 once you make your way through the catalog of Disney Plus. Which on HBO Max I got to see the new Denzel Washington movie that came out, the Little Things. Didn't get a ton of great reviews, but again, he's such a great actor. You can end up watching him anyways. So, but I think the villain in it is the same guy from Suicide Squad, the Joker. So again, not a great job. Another annoying character.
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto. Yes, thank you. Not well done.
Well,
did you watch the movie?
No, I didn't. I don't have HBO. I used to have HBO Go, but when they switched to Max, and I don't have HBO right now. So I will say Mr. Roper enabled the Disney Plus Mandalorian watch. So I got to say he got me over that hump.
So
the wife now has Discovery Plus. So she is enthralled in the everything HGTV, TLC, Discovery Channel Network, History Channel. It's all there. So there's a voluminous catalog to go through for that. So that's
how you got to binge watch The Mandalorian.
It's been a trade-off: 90 Day Fiance versus The Mandalorian. So
all right, well done.
It was well done, worth it. Well done and worth it. And let me give you a spoiler for Wanda Sykes. She's going to teleport everybody, and they're going to just go into this little tiny particle beams, and then they're going to appear on a TV screen. That's what happens. Wonka vision.
No. Just
it's kind of creepy because there was a scene where everybody was particles and they reappeared.
Wonka vision.
Yes.
But that's reconnecting from
the science was laid out in.
That was pretty neat.
The Chocolate Factory many years ago is where she honed her skills.
They do say there is a rumor out there that this is the way that they're going to introduce the X-Men.
This is the
mutants into into the show. Yeah, I see what you. Now that you know what that reference is. Speaking of,
I didn't hear that. I thought that was going to be based off this when they do the Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse when he starts going into the multi-dimensions. I thought that was how they're going to tie in.
I think this is kind of like
Strange.
It's Doctor Strange. Yeah, so this is kind of tied into the new Doctor Strange movies. But I don't know. This is just a rumor that's out there that they say if they play it out a certain way, they could get into another universe where they're pulling in other characters, and this is how they can introduce the mutants. I don't know how they're going to do it, but this is just kind of one of those rumors that are out there. Be interesting how to do it. But we do got to say another big announcement. Wow, it's just a show full announcement. I know we're jumping back and forth here. We're going away from our Super Bowl topics here, but I think this is worth mentioning. Mr. Roper, he has finally seen Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think he's only watched the first one, so he's on his way for the rest.
It doesn't matter.
He's on his way.
He was hooked in. That's it.
Yeah. Yes, that's a big announcement. Just to throw it out there in case everybody was wondering, gee, has Mr. Roper watched Indiana Jones? These guys have been killing him for a year and a half for not watching Indiana Jones.
So I must feel kind of heartbroken because now that we can't nag him about it anymore. He took away something that was kind of like a theme of ours.
That was his thing. Yeah. That's true.
There's a reason to hate. He's really.
There's always a reason to hate Mr. Roper. That's I could always dig up something, but that was like a good.
You of all people could dig up something to hate Mr. Roper for.
Oh, I have plenty.
Yeah. Every time you lay down on a pillow, you can think of a reason to hate him.
Well, we haven't dropped the Roper reference in a few podcasts here, so we have to, a couple times we have to drop his name on this podcast to catch up to that.
Yeah, he's got to equal out the hate. He can only do so much good before it has to balance out again.
That is true. But that was a major a win for his family, just like a win for your family, Jarvis. You have Disney Plus. He got to watch Indiana Jones, so it's a win-win. So me and I are doing good. We should get our angel wings for all the hard work we're helping you guys.
That's right. And to segue, Mr. Roper is clearly on the bandwagon of the Chiefs, so all the more reason to get back on hating Mr. Roper because he's rooting for the Chiefs.
Really?
Oh. Okay. All right. Well, let's kick it off. All right. So Super Bowl 55 is coming up this Sunday. It's on CBS at 6:30 for those
in my hometown of Tampa.
Yeah, and his new adopted home, Tampa Bay.
My new hometown.
So Big Meat called it. I think he was predicting it. Chiefs in Tampa Bay. So kudos to Big Meat for it, as much as I hate to admit it. And I did have that blind rage because I did not want to see him right. And for some reason, I'm rooting against Brady. And I still am because John still supports Tampa Bay. So it's just bugging me because Tampa Bay used to be my team back in the Brad Johnson days when he brought them to the Super Bowl. So just the fact.
And then he jumped off the bandwagon, and now he's back on the bandwagon.
No, when that defense broke apart and, it just wasn't the same when Dungy left and then Gruden took over. It just wasn't the same team. They lost their character once especially when Mike Allstott wasn't on the team anymore. It just broke my heart.
It was more of Mike. It was more about Mike Allstott and Warwick Dunn. Don't you have Warwick? Do you still have that Warwick Dunn jersey?
I don't have the Dunn, but I still have the Allstott jersey in my thing, and I'm torn about wearing it for the Super Bowl or should I not? That's just the big dilemma I'm in right now.
Azar, I gotta say, I can feel R3's rage burning already because it was Gruden that won the Super Bowl, not Dungy.
I know, but the team wasn't the same.
I get that. I just wanted to clarify that you didn't think that.
No, Azar knows that because he's been saying since then that it was really Dungy's team that won the Super Bowl. Dungy put that team together. Gruden just
agree.
That defense was ridiculous and stacked with talent. And do you really think John Gruden coaching up Brad Johnson is what won them?
Well, it was the same thing as what's his name, Barry Switzer or whatever the coach of the Cowboys was. I think it was Barry Switzer. He took over for Jimmy Johnson and rode that team to a Super Bowl, and then the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah, there's some coaches that like walked into a great situation, and maybe it was him that took him over the edge, maybe not, but it wasn't. John Gruden was in that time. It was even more over dramatic with his expressions on the sideline. He was just such a punchable face kind of guy, like, and like my wife would call him the drama queen, and now when she sees him in the Raiders uniform, she's like, "Oh my God, the drama queen's back!" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's coaching. He's back coaching again." Like,
I loved him in the booth, but as a coach, like he has that scowl, and to me, I always thought it was so over dramatic. Like it's like, he doesn't really have. He's not really doing that like naturally. You know what I mean?
It's like Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher has a scout.
Yeah, exactly. Bill Cowher has it. It's believable. That's his face.
And spit, and he does it on TV, so you know it was his face, not like an act.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And that's that's how I look at John Gruden. It's an act. Yeah. When he does that face.
Yeah, because then like the
Nicolas Cage face.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well played. Well said. But it's funny because when you watched Hard Knocks, it came out. Because 1 minute he's got that stupid look, and the next minute he's like
Knock if you hear me.
Yeah, he's making that grabbing ass kind of with the players right afterwards. It's like, all right, come on, like he's so fake.
Might have to mute. I just knocked in the dogs. The dogs going shit house.
I was just gonna say, he started growling, and then all of a sudden I started hearing a real dog in the background barking. Did you do that to get the dog barking? He's shaking his head yes.
My guy's gonna piss himself laughing.
Jarvis just lost it.
All right,
it's a good thing he's on mute.
Thank God. While he composes himself, look at it. He's gonna go get his dog now.
He got his dog all riled up. That was great.
All right, but you know what, Big Meat? While he's taming his beast, he's dying. He's turned red. He turned so red. His head's going to explode. You make fun of WandaVision with the Oompa Loompa head. Look at your head. He's got a big red head.
He's tomato face. It's no joke.
Tomato face. Oh, man. That is true.
All right, Big Meat. While he's composing himself, let's talk about the Super Bowl. So, I can't remember if you actually called who's winning the Super Bowl. Did you make your prediction for who's winning it?
Yes, the Bucs. I've been saying that.
You have the Bucs going. So you're not concerned that in the first time they met up on November 29th that the Chiefs ran up the scoreboard on them real early, and then they took.
I thought it was a little bit of a no. That doesn't concern me at all. Look at what the Saints destroyed the Bucs in the regular season, and they beat them pretty convincingly that first game of the season too. So. They were 0-2 against the Saints, and they still managed to beat them in the playoffs. I don't think that has anything to do with that. I just think the offense right now, the way they're clicking, and Antonio Brown's going to be back, is they're just clicking on offense. They can match point for point with the Chiefs. I don't think there's a lot of teams out there that you could say that if they went up against each other. If you're not going to win in a shootout against Mahomes, but I think the Bucs are capable of doing that. I just think the Bucs defense, the way they've been playing, they're kind of getting together and they're playing their best football as well. And the fact that it's Brady and like I said, it's in Tampa. I think it's just all meant to be. I think that's where it is. And it's the Andy Reid factor. I know Bruce Arians. He's not a great coach. I think Andy Reid's a good coach. I think when it comes playoff time, he always tends to kind of screw it up. I know they won it last year, so he's over that hump. But Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything like that. It's going to be a close game, but I've been saying the Bucs all along that they're going to ride this whole thing and they're going to end up winning it. And Brady's going to win his 7th.
I think the key is the Bucs secondary healthy for the Super Bowl, because they got smoked in the first game. In the secondary and the offense for the Chiefs hasn't changed. It's still as potent, just as fast, and they couldn't answer it. If it wasn't for Brady saving the day on November, like they didn't win, but Brady's what brought them back in the game. But they just fell short. I just don't think the Chiefs offense is so good. I don't think that secondary can contain Mahomes and all the weapons they have on offense for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think this is a different Buccaneers team. I remember the first. We watched a lot of Tampa Bay games. The network was smart to televise a lot of the Tampa Bay games, obviously because of Brady. So they were on TV a lot. And I remember the first game, the season opener, they looked lost. I remember watching that game being like, okay, there's so many penalties, dumb penalties. It looked like nobody ever played football before. They just seemed out of sync. And I said, oh, this isn't going to work out. And then there was that game later in the season when Brady forgot what down it was. Remember, he had the 4 fingers up, and it was just like, this team's kind of a mess right now. Like, I don't how are they even going to come close? They might not even make the playoffs. Like, they're going to end up losing a bunch of games in a row. And that's when, towards the end of the season, Godwin got healthy. He had like a broken finger. He had it wrapped up for a few games. Evans was kind of in and out. He hurt his knee. He kept getting knocked out of the game here and there. Gronk took a while to get going. That running game took a while to get going. Who would have thought Ronald Jones was going to be the type of running back he was going to be by the end of the season? Plus, they picked up Antonio Brown. He needed some time to develop. By the end of the season, all those guys were healthy, and that offense was clicking. So it's the first time we get to see, plus the fact that there's no preseason. I know every team didn't have a preseason, but this is Brady's first team in 20 plus years, right? So it took a little bit of time for them to gel, and towards the end of the season, they were gelling.
Yeah, but you're saying week 12, just to be clear, that was week 12 that they played Kansas City. So it wasn't like they were still working out the bugs. They were just getting the shit kicked out of them, because that was the stretch that they lost to New Orleans. They beat Carolina. They crushed Carolina, which was a terrible team.
Stretch.
Then they lost to the Rams, and they lost to the Kansas City. And then they had their bye week, and then they played three bad teams. Like Minnesota wasn't great, and then they played Arizona and Detroit. Atlanta and Detroit, 2 terrible teams. So they went into the playoffs with momentum because they beat the shit out of 3 bad teams at the end. So that's what they're saving grace.
But they're still looking good, and look who they beat in the playoffs.
Well, the Patriots did that 2 years ago when they beat the Rams. They played like the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins, and flipped that switch, as Ted Johnson said, and they got that Sony Michel 21 offense package going, and they rode that straight to a Super Bowl. However, the Chiefs have too much firepower, and this is all going to be rooting for the Bucs in vain. Sadly, I'm going to be wearing my Fire the Cannons and Raise the Flags shirt, and I have my Buccaneers flag that they sent me, and it's just all going to be embarrassing on Monday morning.
I want that flag. I used to have a Buccaneers flag. Now, Brady threw 2 picks in that game.
He threw 3 picks last week.
Yeah, and he threw. I'm talking about the last time he faced the Chiefs. He threw 2 picks, and he gets flustered. So my fear is Brady is again going to be the X factor. Is he going to put his team in a bad position?
Is Mahomes' toe going to slow him down enough to where the D line of the Bucs can actually get to him or contain him? Because what's going to save Mahomes is that little 10-yard scramble when he ducks out of the pocket and has nobody in front of him, and he just scampers to the sideline for a first down. If the Bucs can actually pressure him and keep him around the pocket, then I think that that's going to be their only chance. If Mahomes can break out, he's too good. He's just too accurate, and the receivers are too fast, and Kelsey's too big to all be covered all the time. And they're going to turn it. If they turn it into a track meet, it doesn't favor Tampa. If they turn it into a grinder with some big plays and pockets, then Tampa has a chance. But they have to smash that. It's actually really big. Kansas City just lost Eric Fisher and is Mitchell Schwartz. Is he still the other lineman there? They lost 2 high end linemen this week that are going to be out, which is significant for the Chiefs. Plus, the Chiefs are just had 2 players with a close contact to COVID. So now that we're on Tuesday here, it'll be interesting to see if Wednesday or Thursday positive tests start turning up in Kansas City, because that could significantly alter the Super Bowl dynamic. Denard Robinson and some no-name player are quarantined right now because they had a close contact to somebody with COVID. That came out today.
Yeah. Well, that would be huge. The only thing that I'm just thinking is that, like, to your point, I think you're right, Jarvis. I think that if for that secondary in Tampa, well, first of all, I think Arians is going to go in there and say, we're going to try to slow down Mahomes because they are a potent offense. What's the way to do that? Let's keep him off the field, right? Let's keep the KC's offense off the field. How do we do that? Well, we're going to take the ball out of Brady's hands, and we're going to try to run it down their throat, because the Kansas City defense is suspect to the run. So we're going to get like hours of LeGarrette Blount and Ronald Jones.
Leonard Fournette.
Leonard Fournette. Look, why do I get LeGarrette Blount? I don't know why they did.
It's Bruce Arians, not Chip Kelly.
Yeah, sorry. So why do I default to that? I always have these random names on top of my head. So I'm thinking of them, Leonard Fournette, and you're going to get Ronald Jones, like a heavy dose of that. So that takes that out of Brady's hands, which I think would be a mistake, because the only way you're going to win is if it's in Brady's hands. But so
I don't know. I think you could run on the Chiefs if they could keep Mahomes off the field. I think
it's not just running on the Chiefs. It's you have to be able to gain 4 or 5 yards per carry. You have to average over a first down every 2 or 3 carries.
But you got to score. Like, every one of those drives have to score.
Well, if they run the ball and they're averaging 5 yards a carry and they're getting first downs, second down, second and third downs regularly, they're not always in third and long. By the time you get to the red zone, knowing that you're ineffective against the run completely opens up the pass. So that they're going to need that for Brady to be effective down there, making those quick hits to Evans. And by the way, Godwin is garbage this year. They need to not throw him the ball at all. He's had more drops in the last 2 weeks than he had in his career.
I know. And he's a guy with like really good hands too. And
so he's all sorts of out of whack.
But
so he needs to be a decoy.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, they've got to the point where they're in the Super Bowl now. It's like you got to just ride or die with a guy. I mean, you got to throw to him. He's still a talented receiver. And if he drops him, and it's like shit. It's like hopefully he gets that squared away. But by the way, they did only lose to the Chiefs 27-24.
That's not an indicative score of the game. It was not a close game.
They fell behind 17-0.
Tyreek Hill scored 3 touchdowns and had 200 yards in like the first half.
It was I get it. But that was the last. So that was the stretch of when they lost 3 out of 4 games. And then they went on a bye week. They had a late bye week in week 13. But then it was after that, those last 4 games of the season. Granted, they didn't play great teams, but their offense was clicking.
Yeah.
And then they rolled it right into the playoffs against a pretty good Washington defense. Scored on them.
A pretty bad Washington offense.
Sure, but I'm talking about more of their
limped-armed Drew Brees, and a bad coaching.
Well, that was that one linebacker, Devin White, was unbelievable against Brees. I mean, he was making plays. He was the one that caused a fumble on Cook. I mean, he was everywhere. What I'm most worried about is the fact that their defensive coordinator that has to game plan for Patrick Mahomes is Todd freaking Bowles.
But he's done well for them to contain Rodgers. He did a good job. I mean, he couldn't see. That's the thing that kind of goes back, right?
But
they didn't fully stop Rodgers. They just did enough for them to.
But what stopped Rodgers was Rodgers. Devontae Adams drops a touchdown. Equimonious St. Brown, whatever his name is, dropped the 2-point conversion that would have prevented them from kicking that field goal later. They would have gone, and then Rodgers not running it in, or at least running to the sideline, to the pylon, instead firing it into triple coverage on Lazard when he got swatted away. So, I mean, like, there was a massive chain reaction of events that caused the Buccaneers to continuously stay in control of that game when it was not the defensive scheme. It was offensive drops and miscues.
Sure, but that first half, it was pretty dominant from the Tampa Bay side on both sides of the ball. It was that first half that really saved that game for the Buccaneers. That second half, they started to fall apart on the offense.
Yeah, and it's Tom Brady's bad
shooting
second
themselves
half.
in the foot.
It saved Rodgers. They put Green Bay back in.
They got one touchdown off of his 3 picks. I mean,
it was bad. But see, Mahomes won't make that mistake.
But on the flip side, when Breeze threw a pick, Brady brought him right down and scored. So the whole reason they beat the Saints was because they capitalized on the turnovers.
Yeah,
and
but like if you gotta play it on both sides too. I mean, Tampa Bay had a lot of drops too. We talked about Godwin, right? He's dropped a lot over the last few games. So, I mean, without those drops, maybe the score is a little bit more lopsided. Who knows? But
now, do you think Brady's going to force feed into Antonio Brown? Because he has a tendency to try to force some throws down.
But why not? Antonio Brown's. I mean, if you look at Antonio Brown's numbers, the last month of the season, he didn't play obviously last week because he was injured. But before that, he was playing well.
Yeah, but
he's that one game where he had 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think I forget which game it was. It was a few games back. I mean, it seemed like he was scoring a touchdown almost every game.
But he's coming up, I think he lines up more in the slot. But he's running a lot of these intermediary routes. It's Evans and Scotty Miller that are downfield. And I know Scotty Miller shouldn't be in this conversation when you have Brown, Evans, and Godwin. but Scotty Miller just runs these little
played well.
He just runs these little go routes, and Evans does the deep crosses and the deep posts and everything. He takes the ball down there. Godwin's kind of a little bit all over, and Godwin and Brown, I think, kind of run similar route trees, but they're a lot of the underneath stuff and the crosses to try to get one of them free. And so, Azar, to your point, Brady's going to lock in on Evans. And that's who he throws these lofty balls to, that if he's just trying to get him, make a play, it's Mike Evans, like the Randy Moss effect.
I've seen him make some of those to Antonio Brown, trying to squeeze in some throws that were just So, I think
By the way, don't forget about the one big factor in this game. You know what the big factor is in this game? Jarvis's dark horse, Shady McCoy on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, please.
I can't wait. What's the line
Shady
on him?
McCoy.
Did they release him?
No, I think he's still there. I saw him last week's game, and he was sitting on the bench. I don't think he saw any action.
And he won't see any action this week. It's going to be all Leonard Fournette.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be a Leonard Fournette show.
Shady McCoy wins the Super Bowl MVP. What are the odds? I need a line. I'm looking it up right now.
Look, if Leonard Fournette wins the Super Bowl MVP, Big Meat will have to apologize.
Oh, come on. That
for all the jackass
nothing. That means nothing.
Oh, come on.
Absolutely nothing.
Leonard Fournette got so much verbal abuse during this fantasy season. And if he comes in and is the X factor that wins the Super Bowl for the Buccaneers, you should go out and buy a jersey and have to wear it at next year's draft.
He was more of the verbal abuse for when he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then when he got traded, it was like, oh, well, maybe he'll be all right.
But the person that drafted him won our league. Oof. So if he wins and he gets Super Bowl MVP, you're never going to hear the end of it. You're going to be like
Leonard Fournette's going to be. Listen, never say never. I never, but
I don't even have odds.
You make a bet.
I have the odds up right now.
All right, give it away, Jarvis.
Okay, so there's no Shady McCoy. I don't even have numbers on Shady McCoy. So which means he's worse than plus 6,600. All right, so the worst odds plus 6,600. There's a group of them which include Scotty Miller, Rob Gronkowski, Sammy Watkins, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark, and Cameron Brate. So Mahomes is the favorite. He's the only one minus 120. So he's the favorite to win. Brady's plus 200. So what that means is if you bet 100, if it's plus, you win 100. You win 200, right? So Mahomes, you'd have to bet 120 to win 100. So that's what the minus means.
Yeah, I like Brady. Yeah. I like the bet with Brady.
How about this? Travis Kelce plus 1,000. Tyreek Hill plus 1,000. Leonard Fournette plus 2,500.
Oh, he's in the conversation. See,
Mike Evans plus 28. Godwin plus 3,000. Tyrann Mathieu plus 3,000. Devin White and Edwards-Helaire at all plus 3,000.
I'm liking
They
Leonard Fournette.
usually give it to
I'm
the.
gonna
It's
go on.
so hard not to give it to the quarterback if he's even remotely good.
I'm going to
and they win the
cross-reference
Super Bowl.
these because these all sound high.
Yeah.
So Big Man, who's
I'm-
going to be? So Tom Brady, Super Bowl MVP.
Yep.
Calling it right now.
Brady. Yep.
All right.
Well, if I'm predicting the Bucks to win, then it's got to be somebody on the Bucks, and it ain't going to be Leonard Fournette. I can promise you that. It's going to be Tom Brady.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
Super Bowl.
What about defensive players? Are there defensive players on there? Like I can imagine if Sue ends up having
Devin White
3
was
sacks.
Devin White was the first one at 4,500.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to look up Super Bowl special bets here.
It's hardly ever a defensive player.
No. I mean, if the Chiefs win, it's
Well,
going to be Mahomes.
The
If
last
Chiefs
time
win.
the Buccaneers were in the Super Bowl, who was the MVP?
Was it Brooks?
It was Brooks,
Yeah.
defensive player. I'm
Yeah,
just
no way.
saying. I'm just saying.
Could be a special teams player like Desmond Howard. Wasn't he the MVP of that game?
Yeah.
With the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, and then I think was it Reggie? Was it Reggie White?
No, it was
Who
Desmond.
was the MVP in that game? Didn't Reggie White have like 3 sacks in that
It
game?
was Desmond Howard. End the debate. We're not doing this.
Okay, we should have R3 on the speed dial just to come and start screaming. So you know what? I'm gonna go. If it's the Chiefs, I'm picking. Obviously, Mahomes is gonna get MVP. But if Tampa wins it, I'm going with my dark horse. Leonard Fournette is the reason they're gonna win it.
God. Azar did used to have a stiffy for Leonard Fournette.
I did back in the
That is
day
true.
Wow.
when he was actually viable.
Oh, I got
Um,
Brady at plus 175 here. We're on my bookie now. The other one was Odds Shark. But yeah, no, Leonard Fournette, 1,400. Kelsey, plus 1,000. Where's Tyreek Hill? Plus 1,000.
Do you think also maybe because the stories came out this past week that Brady's parents had COVID at the beginning of the season too, and I think his father was like hospitalized from it. Do you think that might have been weighing on his mind also early on in the season, and why he wasn't really
Do you think
kind of
anything
hit or miss?
I don't know.
anything
'Cause he
weighs
was
on
ru-
Tom Brady?
He
Come
was
on.
running around without wearing a mask in like the park. So if he was like, my
Yeah.
parents are suffering from COVID, he would probably be championing, social distancing and wearing a mask, not hanging out at Byron Leftwich's house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's probably
don't
true.
buy that. That's just Big Me trying to protect his binky. Why he sucked.
You
know what?
Well, he had his games here and there where it was like, wow, he's great, and then it was like awful. Like that game
Yeah.
against the Saints was terrible. It was the worst. I don't think I've ever seen
Oh
him
my
play
God.
worse in that game.
Well,
ever.
just think about that second half with the Green Bay. Like if Mahomes and Brady are in a shootout, and they go into the second half and needing Brady to be to keep up with that shootout, do you think his arm? We saw what he did with Rodgers. He did not look like he had that same energy or
Sure.
oomph in his throws.
Okay, but
that-
2 weeks off, and they don't have to travel.
John, he's 43 years old.
I understand that, but
because even with 2 weeks off, he's still going to be. If he plays an intense first half, doesn't mean he's not going to be tired. I don't even know what 2 weeks
Sure.
of rest is. So
sure. But I think Azar is just trying to debate the fact that he hates Brady so much that he wants Brady to lose.
no, I'm just saying. I think like
It could be a factor.
all the
It could
credit.
be.
When you think of everything, it's like all the credit goes to Brady. Always all the credit. And that used to be the rub with me. With like a lot of times, it's like, all right, you're ignoring all the great defense that is around
But wait a
Brady in
second.
the early years. In the early years.
Hasn't this year supported the fact that it's been more Brady than Bill? And I don't. If
No.
anything,
I'm not talking about that bit. I'm just talking about even when they have a great win, they like they tie it back, and it's like, well, Brady didn't have a great game, so why is it Brady in this game is why we're like hyping up the win? It's
Which one against the Packers?
well, even if you look at the Packers game, I wouldn't say Brady like won the first half for them, but he almost cost them the game. And at the end of that game, what was the conversation? How wonderful Brady was, and how well. And I'm like, yeah, but did you see the game? Like I think
maybe he knew that the Packers were 2-40 when trailing in the second half, and all he had to do was get to halftime with the lead, and then he could coast.
so. He's just throwing picks just to kind of keep it close and interesting
Man,
for the bookies.
Maybe.
One of those picks was like, okay, two of the picks were terrible because
I
he
would
was on
say
his back foot.
one of the picks was like Mike Evans ran left and the ball went right. And then the other one went through. I think it was Evans or
it was
Brady.
through his. Yeah.
One of them went right through his hand. Well, no, there was one that at the goal line or in the red zone, that one went through the hands and it shot in over.
Yep.
And then the other one, Evans was running like a flag route and looked over the wrong shoulder, and the ball went the other way over his opposite shoulder. And
that was over his head though. He should have caught it. Who Mike
Yeah,
Evans
but
is.
if Evans turns the other way and goes vertical, he could at least make a play on it.
Evans should have caught that. Evans should have caught that.
I agree with that. We talked about that last week. We both said that the Evans one, the other two were clearly bad throws, but the Evans one was not a bad. But like I said, you could tell watching Brady, he lost some gas in the second half of that game. There was something off, and I'm curious to see in a shootout, and if he does get pressure, hopefully they're smart enough not to keep Brady in the pocket, because that's the worst thing. I think Felger, who Jarvis loves, echoing a lot of times.
I swear to God, I'm going to go on a. Don't even send me down that road right now.
But I did agree with them. I don't know why teams that have been watching Brady for 20 years, why they try to pinch him from the outside and push him into the pocket. He thrives in the pocket. He just steps up and throws. The best thing to do with Brady is get him the hell out of the pocket and have him moving.
That's always been the MO. That's why the Ravens were so good. They would rush, and the Titans were good against us because they rushed the pressure up the middle with minimal linemen. They scheme
that's how the Giants were able to beat him.
Exactly. So, but you think after seeing that there'd be more of a blueprint on it, and you're like, what are teams doing? Sometimes it's just
you can scheme it up. Doesn't mean you can execute it. And then there are some teams that are just dumb, like the Jets and Todd Bowles when he was there, and my best players are on the outside. Let's blitz from the outside.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's not so much the blitz. It's the Brady will kill you if you try to blitz him. You need those guys, those interior linemen, to put pressure up the middle, and it's got to be those guys. I mean, you can blitz just to keep the offense, off balance, but it's more about the pressure up the middle. That's how the Giants, both Giants Super Bowl wins, they had great defensive lines. All throughout, and so they didn't have to blitz. They didn't have to send extra guys. They could just drop back in coverage and let those guys do that work, and they pressured Brady enough. So do the Chiefs have that great defensive line?
I mean, they get some players.
Yeah, but I don't think they're the Giants defense.
No,
from back in the day.
Not that, but
No.
I mean,
that type of defensive line.
But they're not facing Brady in his mid-20s or early 30s.
No, but, Chris Jones and Frank Clark are legit on the D line. I mean, I don't know. I think they can. What's different this time around is I think the Buccaneers have a really good O line. They get some young talent. They get that rookie Werps, who's been really good.
Really good. Yeah.
And I think that makes a big difference when you're not trying to put backups in the interior of the line, which to the Patriots' flaws, that's what they ended up doing.
Well, and the Patriots back then, right? They had Maroney, Lawrence Maroney, right? They didn't have a running game. That's why and Azar's just gonna get so excited here.
Give it.
So instead of saying Fournette, they have Ronald Jones. So thank God that they have Ronald Jones and Shady McCoy running the ball.
That's right.
And maybe, just to kind of give those guys a breather that you could throw Fournette out there for a couple of
Everybody
carries.
knows
Wait a second. Well, by the way, when I made that Shady McCoy thing, that was before Fournette was signed. I just want to say that changed the dynamic.
So he could have been your Fournette of this year if Fournette never went there. That's true.
Right.
That's
right.
very
a lot
true.
of opportunity taken away at that point.
Yes, I agree.
His ability not to run anymore took that away from him.
How do you know? We haven't seen him.
We've seen enough last year. We know it's all done.
No,
all done.
By the way,
you mean Super Bowl winning Shady McCoy? Because pretty sure he has a ring.
Oh, he does have a ring.
Yeah,
he does. That's right.
When he was with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
He didn't do anything.
He's going for a second.
He's got
a two-time Super Bowl champion.
He could pull a LeGarrette Blount, Azar. How do you feel about that? He could win with the Patriots and then flip and win with the Eagles, is what Blount.
That's right. That's right. So it's
McCoy
all about him.
That's right.
So I'm glad I brought up his name.
The reason why
there was a reason. Think about him.
The only way Shady McCoy is seeing the field is if both Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette get injured. The only way he's seeing the field.
Killed coming into the stadium. So we talked about the game, and I'm just kind of curious because this this is a COVID Super Bowl, so it's kind of it limits the ability to enjoy it, like going to like Super Bowl parties and having fun.
Telling me.
And
this was the one I was supposed to go to.
So yeah, exactly. You could be down in Tampa celebrating right now with your new adopted home. Now,
should be.
The one thing I was looking at is like I don't even know. I'm hearing like some of these companies aren't even doing the commercials like they did in the past. They're going to try to make it COVID related or like
social injustices.
Yeah, it's going to be like a very interesting Super Bowl, which the commercials are going to be lame. And I don't even know the halftime show who The Weeknd is. Like I've heard
come
of him.
On,
you don't know who The
I don't want to be a
Weeknd is?
part of this.
I heard of him.
A
But
disclaimer that this podcast does not support
serious?
Azar's
I'm not a big
comments.
Weeknd fan.
No,
but
seriously.
I don't know who The
Wait
Weeknd
a
is.
second.
Is
The
he a
Weeknd
name?
is good.
Is he a name that can have his own? He's like a Bruno
Yes.
Mars. He's like that
Yes.
A
level.
little bit like Bruno Mars. Yeah.
Yes, very much like Bruno Mars. Sounds like Michael Jackson. He's really good. Wait a second. That song, that Blinding Light song, is real fucking catchy.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of an
That's real
80s,
catchy.
an
Yeah.
80s song. Like,
How do you
feel
not
to it.
like
Yeah.
that song?
It's okay. I like that song,
bullshit,
but
it's okay. I have not got sick of it
Look
yet.
how-
I can hear
now
that
think
song.
about this. Everybody, stop. Look how animated he is about The Weeknd. He didn't even get animated about
Wait. That's not
I
fair.
have to question what's
I
going
had
on
to
in Middle
defend
Earth right
because our listeners are going to be like, I'm done listening to this. They don't know what the fucking Weekend is. Do you not like step out of your Pelham
The
shell?
fact that is, I
Like,
didn't know who The Weeknd was.
that's
No,
why
I said
wait,
I've
no,
heard of
Paul.
him. I've heard of him. I just
You referred to him like he was just like a one-hit wonder.
to have a
Azar.
halftime show. I mean, come on.
Yes, he's the artist of the year, won a Grammy. Like he's it. He's the next thing right
He is
now.
a big artist this year. But Azar, he's the guy, if you've read on the news, that's been showing up all over like the music award shows with his whole face bandaged up. I don't know if you've seen that. Like, and it's not like it's bandaged up like he got hurt. He's doing it as part of his album. I still don't understand exactly why he's doing it. But that's just what he does. And he goes out and he sings songs with his whole face all bandaged up.
I don't know. That's weird. That's weird. So you'll like the story of this kid though. He was I think he got like picked up off of YouTube or something. He was in high school and he was writing music and just putting his songs on YouTube. And he got picked up by a label from YouTube and literally went from algebra class one day to international sensation the next day. He's self-made, so he's a pretty legit story. Writes his songs and he's pretty catchy.
I know someone who's going to be enjoying the halftime show this year.
I like Bruno Mars too. Bruno Mars was good. I'm all right with The Weeknd. It's better than rolling out the fucking Rolling Stones or Aerosmith again. You know what? I love 80s rock, but my God, if you're going to pull somebody who's got one foot in the grave again to do a halftime show, I'm done with that. I'm done with the Stones, Bon Jovi,
Janet Jackson with Justin Timberlake.
Come on. If that was 20 years ago.
I would have enjoyed another Jennifer Lopez Super Bowl special.
Come on. I would just watch New Year's Eve all over again. She's there every year now. I mean, what are they going to do? Cher, Madonna?
No. Bruno Mars was, I thought, the best halftime show that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, you could always have Katy Perry come back.
Like, I didn't like Maroon 5. I thought that was terrible.
Terrible.
Lady Gaga was pretty good. Lady Gaga put on a good show.
Yeah, she was entertaining.
Like I said, I was looking at I'm like, The Weeknd. I'm not excited about any of it. I'm like, I don't really care about The Weeknd. There's no commercials. I'm not. This Super Bowl is not as exciting.
I think The Weeknd will be pretty good. I think he's got
obviously for you,
songs.
we could tell you're going to be.
I mean, I'm not like that's my
someone's
number
gonna have
one
a chubby.
choice.
I was just about to play the song, and so I can put it near my mic, but then we'll be copyright issues there playing songs that we don't have license.
It's a free podcast, isn't it?
It is free.
It is.
But I still think.
But I don't think you could just play any song. I don't know.
Are you sure? You worried about getting like slapped with an injunction or something?
Yes.
Okay.
They'll make us delete this great content. We don't.
Kind of like that time when you played the that country song. From,
Fishing in the Dark.
Yeah, you started playing that song, and I was like, "Oh wait, can we play this?"
Did you have to edit that out? That's
you know what's gonna happen now? We're gonna next golf tournament. We're gonna have picked posters of the Weeknd's autographed posters and shit like that now. Because we,
yeah, you got to do it, Jarvis. You got to do it. That's gonna be the next one. Autographed picture of the Weeknd.
It'll go great with the N'Keal Harry signed jersey that he's gonna get. Guys, I
think I have one.
Oh, good.
I think I have one.
When you get in the Cam Newton jerseys?
Oh, those are definitely available right now. I gotta scour the.
You can find a Shady McCoy jersey.
All right, so we'll know two people jamming to the weekend during the Super Bowl. It'll be Mr.
Fair
Wilbur,
enough. I will be jamming
Wilbur
to the
and
weekend.
Jarvis. All right. I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to think of how I'm going to make the Super Bowl exciting. Other than watching the game, like see what happens between Brady and Mahomes.
You got to get some action on the prop bets.
So who are you guys picking to win? You guys both said the Chiefs.
I said I'm rooting for the Bucs, but my pick would be the Chiefs.
I'm rooting for Mahomes. I want him to start the new.
Wow,
new
you guys
legacy.
are ridiculous.
Why am I ridiculous? Why am I ridiculous? I would like you to elaborate.
Oh no! I'm sorry. You said you're rooting for the Bucs. Oh, good for you. So if you're rooting for the Bucs, that's who you guys got to be rooting for. I get the whole thing, Brady leaving, but if you're not rooting for Brady at this point in the Super Bowl, then shame on you.
He's not a Patriot. Why does it matter to you?
Because, like I said last week,
because he should still be a Patriot.
Because if you think about where Mahomes is, if he wins, right? I said this kind of last week, where Mahomes wins his second, he'll be closer to Brady. If those 6 championships that Brady won in New England don't mean anything to you, then you're rooting for Mahomes to catch up to Brady. So at the end of his career, you can look back and say Mahomes was a better quarterback than Brady. This is the same argument with people in San Francisco that kept saying Joe Montana. And then when Brady catches up and he wins more than him, now everyone's like, oh, Brady's better. So you kind of want...
Think about it. Like that gap between Joe Montana and Brady, right? That was a big gap. Like if you're talking about from entertainment, if Mahomes takes the new Brady mantle and is this dominant quarterback, that means we're watching good football for the next
but he doesn't have to win championships.
Why does he have to win it this year? Let him win.
So you're so worried about another man's legacy that you want it to be Brady to be that's it all time. In our lifetime, we'll never see another guy. Like you don't think it'll be more exciting if Mahomes is close to it and is always nipping at his like when Manning.
He's close and nipping now.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like if he loses,
he's still close and nipping.
I think
you will hear once if Mahomes beats Brady, right? And he wins
the passing of the guard, the torch.
Exactly. And then everyone's going to start saying,
but it is accurate.
Mahomes is better than Brady.
To be accurate. I want Brady to win so I can resell my tickets next year for higher money.
Agreed. See,
you guys were supposed to be talking.
I like it. It's a you forgot to mute your mic when you said that.
So Meat has this weird like fantasy about Brady. Like, who cares? It's like he's not related to you. So basically, who cares?
He's related to my team.
So you're not a fan, Azar. So his 6 championships that he's won for the Patriots.
No, it was great.
Like you don't care.
Great as a Patriots fan, but it's over.
Shut the door. Hit you on the way out.
The Chiefs deserve that.
All right. Sorry.
You think the Chiefs deserve that?
So let me ask you.
Azar just doesn't like Brady. He doesn't like his hat. He doesn't like the hat that he wears at the press conferences.
I like the TB12 logo.
No.
You don't like the TB12 logo?
No, that's not the hat. No, I'm talking about like the it looked like a weird like Cam Newton. There's some hat that Cam Newton would wear.
Why?
Oh yeah, I remember that photo.
Was it made of camel skin? This is like a PETA moment you're having here. Middle East defend our animals.
No. It was.
I get mad when they have veal at a restaurant. You get mad when Brady wears a camel hat.
His wife dressed him. It was a super. So let me understand this.
Is that the same one who wore that cardigan with the buttons up his neck?
I don't know what he's talking about. Will you just shut the fuck up?
You walking about freaking Brady hats?
He's just talking about the time he was just annoying. Anyways, that's not the point. So, Big B, let me
don't
ask
have
this.
a point.
As a season ticket holder, if the Patriots drafted a quarterback right now, or say they got I don't want to say Garoppolo. I don't want to say Garoppolo, but say they traded for
Mac Jones. Say they drafted Mac Jones out of
say Mac Jones. You wouldn't want as a Patriots fan to have him win like 7 Super Bowls and be like
that's different. That's not the same.
I would want him to win 7 Super Bowls because it's with the
All right,
I don't
so
root
that's
for the Chiefs.
All right, so my point is like who cares? Like
I care.
Brady's is gone now. If someone I would rather see someone break Brady's legacy as a Patriot.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, Azar. What you're saying?
You're out of your
hatred for Brady is clouding your judgment right now because it's the same thing like you were saying earlier with Dungy, right? Dungy left and then Gruden won the Super Bowl. For you look back like, oh no, that was Dungy's team. Like you were rooting for Dungy. You were a fan of Dungy as the coach, but Gruden got all the credit.
I was thrilled when Dungy won it as a Colt. Yeah, I thought he deserved that.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. You're a fan of the coach. When you're a fan of Brady, he's your hometown guy. He leaves. It's not like he didn't really like burn his bridges when he left. I mean, everyone likes to talk and say, okay, yeah, he shot his way out of
I
town.
think
Like there's
Bill
a
is
little
a
bit
bigger dick than Brady.
Oh, that's
Like,
no.
Oh, no doubt
so
about that. And
what the hell?
I don't think Belichick gave enough appreciation or credit right to Brady. I think it was just he
Right.
treated everybody the same way, and that's his system. That's his style of coaching.
No, it's his ego.
And it worked for him.
That's what it is.
And it's his ego. Exactly.
And it's wearing thin now that he sucks with Cam Newton.
So Brady at 43
I want the
years old,
Patriots.
he's worked hard his whole life. He's kept himself healthy, right? He's playing at such an old age right now at 43.
That's because he's got concussion.
He's always said the right things in the media, for the most part. He's always stayed out of trouble. He's been a winner.
Yeah, but,
he's been a great team player. He's
I
never
don't
asked
mind
for more
if the
money.
Patriots
get off your knees. You
No,
don't have,
if the
get off your
Patriots-
knees. Wipe your mouth. You're already done.
Wait a second. If
Sucking
the
off Brady.
Patriots
We already know
dynasty
all this.
continues, I'm in support of it.
All right.
I don't want the Chiefs dynasty to be established to be as great
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
it's
That's just bad.
the narrative today is you'll
Mahomes
never see
is
a
a likable player. What?
No,
like,
he's
why?
not. He
What do you
sounds
mean
like
he's
Kermit
not?
the Frog. He sounds like
Oh.
Kermit the Frog.
Oh my
How
god!
do you like that?
You like Rodgers, who is like the most
He's
boring.
marketable.
He's
What do you mean
boring.
boring. He's hysterical. What do you mean
Boring.
boring? He's hysterical.
Hysterical State
He's
Farm commercials
hysterical.
when someone writes a script for him and says, "Hey, be funny, throw your football."
No,
Yeah.
he was the first person to step up and donate to the Barstool Fund. He's the only one that'll go on radio and actually talk shit.
That doesn't make him funny. That doesn't
Yes,
make him
it
funny.
does.
Donating to Barstool does not
You
make
don't
you
listen to
funny.
the Pat McAfee show, clearly.
Oh my
Rodgers
god!
is hysterical.
I heard some of his interviews. He's the most monotone, boring. It's like listening to Brady. All right.
He is a little monotone. He does
is
do good commercials though.
And Mahomes makes funny State Farm commercials too. Okay. So
But
I
he's
don't want to
Kermit
hear
the
it.
freaking frog.
See,
My name
I think
Patrick
you
He's,
guys, you guys are
sorry,
from
I
wrong.
didn't get
Roseanne.
the
Who's the
Mahomes
chick
right.
from Roseanne? The daughter there. He looks like her
Becky?
a little bit. What is it?
No,
is it?
Darlene.
Darlene. I
Darlene.
kept trying to say Darcy, and I'm like, it's not Darcy. I'm thinking of Wonka Vision's Darcy. No, it's Darlene.
I think I would like to see Mahomes, even if he doesn't beat Brady, and Brady always has it. I think it'll be more entertaining to see him compete for it. Like I think that'd be better to see him.
I like Mahomes.
Why don't you just move to Kansas City, Azar? You don't belong in New England.
It's not Kansas
Get out.
City.
Just get out.
I said Mahomes. I didn't say I want Kansas City, but like I just think it'd be fun to watch Mahomes. He's fun to watch.
I want Brady to win his 7th and then just end all debates saying, well, he was in the system with the Patriots. It was Belichick, this and that. It's like, no, win your 7th. Shut everybody up. You're the greatest of all time, and there's no debate. And he'd be 3-0 against Mahomes in the playoffs.
I say again, when Manning was competing in that whole rivalry, it was exciting to watch. Rivalries are good. I don't care. He doesn't have to beat him. Yeah, but I mean, my point is that it made it exciting. That Manning and Brady rivalry was great. I want to see Mahomes.
They can have a rivalry. Mahomes can lose just like Manning did.
And then when Brady retires, Mahomes can win as many championships as he wants.
Let's temper that. Two, maybe three.
I love Joe Montana. And when Brady beat it, I didn't get upset. Like, I'm glad Brady beat Joe Montana.
Because he was a New England Patriot. The rest of the country got upset.
Look, I look at any player in any sport. In any sport, right? If the player is great,
team.
Yeah, if the player is great, I'm willing. Like I didn't really even like Michael Jordan, and then I hated that he kept winning.
Yep, I agree.
I look back and it's like Michael freaking Jordan. Like,
but do you know why?
Was great. He was exciting to watch.
I look back and appreciate Jordan because I hate LeBron.
Yeah, and he's another guy, right? LeBron James is a great basketball player. He's great. He's won what? Now, I mean, again, granted, last year's championship probably doesn't.
He's got like the Lakers. He's got one with the Lakers. He's got like 2 with the Heat. He's got
LeBron's
one with
a mercenary.
The one he won in Disney World. But he's a great player, and you got to appreciate his talent and what he's done. And he is entertaining when he's in the finals.
Exactly.
And he's great to watch. So I agree. I'm the same way with Mahomes. I don't have to root for him. I don't want to have to root for him and say, oh, I hope he wins, because I want him to be so great that he surpasses the guy that helped win 6 championships.
I don't mind rooting for Mahomes to keep it competitive and to always be, in it because he's fun to watch. That's fine. I root for Rodgers the same way. Rodgers, competitive, fun to watch, makes crazy throws. fizzles out in the playoffs every year. Mahomes can do that for quite a good stretch, and I'll be happy with it.
I'll tell you what.
that'd be
Here's a
shitty
good
football.
comparison. Growing up, watching Larry Bird, right? Thought Larry Bird, he's the hometown guy. He's great. He's won his 3 championships. Here comes Michael Jordan. He wins 1. He wins 2. He wins 3. All of a sudden, everyone starts talking about Michael Jordan being the greatest basketball player. For me, I was like, it kind of took away a little bit from Larry Bird because he was, at that time, him and Magic Johnson were like 2 of the best players to ever play. And then Michael Jordan kind of surpasses him. And you can't argue that. Michael Jordan was better than them, and he could be the best player of all time. But it's not like, for me, it was like, I wish he didn't win that many championships so we could continue to say, Larry Bird was better. The same story here.
I actually think I think your point is kind of like what I was trying to say, is that it was exciting if you actually like Jordan, watching him take the mantle.
I rooted against him. I rooted against Jordan every single time he was in the finals.
I did too. I rooted against him
because I hated him. He was the enemy. He wasn't the Celtics. He wasn't even Magic.
So amazing. See again, you're not enjoying the ride. You're not.
I enjoyed watching the Celtics and Lakers, and that's what I got into basketball watching. And then the Celtics, the Pistons, and it was a different style. And all Jordan was Kobe ball, where it was him putting up 45, 50 points a game. And I'm like, meh, I don't like it.
Yeah, I think with the Jordan argument is you're rooting against him, but when he won his another championship, you say, hey, hats off to him. He's great. Like,
you look
you
back and say,
you still enjoy it.
Right. The rest of the country hated Brady and rooted against us every year. But when you saw him come back against the Falcons, you went, guy's kind of good.
He is good. I mean, the whole argument in the first half with the Patriots, it was the defense in those early years. But then Brady turned on a switch and was like, it was all him. It was winning some of those games.
You say that, but it wasn't Brady. It wasn't the defense that drove them down the field on the last drive of the game to kick the field goal. Like, the defense kept it close, and the defense was great. But Brady stepped up in a moment in every single game, except the Eagles one.
Jarvis,
that was purely defense.
I understand that one game, but I'm talking about when you look at the season. Look at the season.
No.
You're saying you're telling me the defense didn't contribute to how getting them to
say
Super
that.
Bowl.
Yeah. I didn't say that. I said the defense held them in check. No, you're felgering this whole thing. I said that Brady played a role.
Reversing it on you,
reverse psychology.
Brady played a role.
Yelling at me. Okay, go ahead.
Brady played a role that was significant to Brady being there to make those championships happen. Right? If you didn't have Vinatieri, the narrative changes. If you didn't have Brady, the narrative changes. If you just had the defense.
Well, obviously.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, the defense has played a huge part of it. It's hard to say any Super Bowl championship to win with a great offense and a bad defense. And I guess vice versa. I mean, people can argue with the Ravens, right?
You're focusing on the Super Bowl. I'm just talking about the season. In the early years, it was our defense that carried us through those seasons. And then there was a switch to turn, and then Brady was like...
that's because they brought in talent for him. He had no receivers.
But exactly.
But my point, in those early years.
Exactly. And it was the defense, but Brady helped. He was a big part of the winning.
How can you root
I'm
for
not
Mahomes
dismissing him.
When he was dropped into the most explosive offense on the planet, and he's just sitting here dinking and doinking to people that nobody else can catch?
Dinking and dunking. The king of dinking and dunking.
Mahomes is great. No, Mahomes is great. No, he is great. And I hope,
Come on, Azar, you could throw the ball to Tyreek Hill as open as he is after time.
All right. This debate is over.
Now he's felgering you.
Yeah, no, we're all done. We're going to move to fantasy now because I'm just going to get angry. And we're going to just I'm going to mute this man here.
I can't wait till the Chiefs lose. I hate Mahomes. I hate Mahomes and the Chiefs so much more because of your take on them right now.
Actually. I actually hope they really lose. I'm going to bet so much money on the Buccaneers to win.
I am going to enjoy the Chiefs. If
God,
they win,
I thought it was going to be an enjoyable Super Bowl. Now I genuinely hate the Chiefs.
My pickup truck is the color of the Chiefs' colors. I am going to be driving by all your homes if Mahomes wins. I'm telling you right now. It's going to be a giant fat head in the back of my screen from now on.
I can't wait. I can't wait to drape a big pirate flag over the front of your house.
That's it. You know what? I'm taking Mahomes first round. That's it.
He called it.
Yeah, lock it in.
That's it. Lock it in. It's all done. I'm already putting it on the spreadsheet.
I want to see Mahomes now win 8 Super Bowls just out of spite. Just out of spite. That's it. God. Let the countdown begin right now. Watch him get injured and his season end, like his career ends because of this.
He gets another concussion.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. let's transition to fantasy because we're almost at past a full hour on this topic. The big news of the day for fantasy is obviously the Matt Stafford trade this week. We knew he was going to get traded by the Detroit Lions, and Meat and I had a podcast, and we were like, yeah, he's not going to add much because we're thinking he's going to go to your average team that's just this like a Bengals or something. Even though I know the Bengals don't need a quarterback, but let's just say like a low level team. I never thought you would see Matt Stafford go to a potent offense like the Rams. I'm still have mixed feelings about the trade, but you have to admit there is definitely some positive fantasy impact by Matt Stafford going to the Rams. I think he is going to improve those offensive players. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm not sure if I love the trade as from an NFL perspective, but from a fantasy perspective, I love it because the Rams, I think, have a much more competent quarterback than what they had before with Jared Goff. And Goff going to the Detroit Lions is so appropriate because they deserve a Jared Goff on that team because the Lions just suck all the time. So goodbye, Golladay. Goodbye. What's his name? What's the running back?
Marvin Jones.
No, Swift. Is it
Swift? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You can keep Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
That team is all done. You can keep your coach there. You guys are all done. But I just wanted to know what you guys thought about Stafford going to the Rams.
Yeah, I don't think neither team will benefit all that much. If anything, the Rams will benefit more because Goff kind of sucks going, like you said. I mean, that team is just lost. I don't think they're going to go anywhere now. At least Stafford is serviceable. But I still don't look at him as a winner. I think he's more talented. I think if anything, Woods, your boy Woods.
My boy Wood.
Have to bring up his name because he's relevant to the conversation. Yeah. But Woods and Kupp could benefit a little bit more with Stafford being there. But I don't think this is like a crazy fantasy trade where it's going to make huge positive impact. I mean, if we were sitting here talking about Watson going to a team, then I could start talking about, okay, that's a major impact. We're still talking about Matt Stafford. It's not the second coming of Mahomes. Yeah,
absolutely not Mahomes. We can all agree on that. But
I was gonna say Brady. I just didn't want to get you so upset, Azar. I just wanted to throw out Mahomes on that one.
Well, what I think is going to be the bigger impact. So you're right, and I had on my list Kupp and Woods, but as beneficiaries and to counter them, Golladay specifically, but Golladay and Jones are the ones that take a big hit. So, but if you look, Kupp and Woods, they were good with Goff, but they were good because Goff had McVay. I don't know what train wreck Dan Campbell's going to bring in on offense, so I cannot say Goff is going to be even a shell of himself.
Well, he came from New Orleans, right?
Dan Campbell was in New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah. So they like to throw a lot there.
Yeah, but he was running the Taysom Hill package, and I just don't know if I see that going in.
And I already heard that they're going to make Swift come out of the slot more. He's going to play out of the slot for them. So it should be interesting.
Kamara would swing out of the slot a little bit.
Well, that's what I mean.
Try to use him like that.
Yeah.
So the beneficiaries, though, I think you're going to see the So let's see. So the beneficiaries are going to be could quite possibly be the Detroit So again, all right, I'm going to project. If Detroit doesn't screw up the opportunity, and I'm assuming they're going to draft defense based on the picks that they're going to get. The Detroit defense could essentially get an infusion of high-end talent through the draft with some of their picks, because I think they got the first round. They got a first round and a third round this year, or a second round and a third round this year, and then subsequent first round. So again, I don't have any faith in Goff and what's happening there, but on offense, but at least the defense may be something that could, because Dan Campbell, I thought, was a defensive guy. But then he was a tight ends coach in New Orleans. I think that's what he was, the tight ends coach.
Yeah, he was
I think he was like an assistant, a general, just assistant coach.
Did he have that title? Maybe he was the tight ends coach in Miami before he took over for that.
Yeah, because he was that.
Everybody got fired.
Yeah, and he was like that big bro guy, like just.
Yeah, he was like all jacked up out of his mind and was like,
"Whoa, yeah, we're gonna win."
score. Like that's his MO. Like that's gonna run out of it's gonna run out of favor real quick in Detroit. But I think that Stafford going to the Rams is gonna help the running game there because he is just a little bit better than Goff. So the offense should sustain a little bit more. He's prone to picks, but I think I just see that the offense being a little bit more dynamic. Not with like Goff was able to probably run a little bit better, but I think Stafford can put the ball in better spots. And I think they'll be able to run better because the receivers are going to cause more of havoc against defenses to stop. So I see the Rams offense becoming more dynamic and Cam Akers being able to take over as more of a workhorse running back because he's going to get more opportunities against softer fronts because Stafford requires more coverage attention than Goff does.
Well, so I'll let you guys just some numbers. I wrote down some stuff about him. And R3 made a point on one of our text threads that he said Stafford's injury prone. And that's actually not even true. He only missed out of his entire career 3 seasons. He didn't play 16 games out of his 12
big
years.
one, what he's referring to is the broken back, which is ultimately what ended Tony Romo's career. So now you have to say he's injury prone because he's had a broken back. But
I remember early his career, his first couple of years in the league, I think he was injury prone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he broke out.
2009, 2010 was his first 2 years. He didn't play a complete season. And then from 2011 to 19, he basically was playing 16 games. But what was interesting about him that I found, I was surprised. So he threw for over 4,000 yards. And I think only 3 years he didn't complete over 4,000 yards. And it was those years he got injured. So I thought that was interesting. So he's consistently over 4,000 yards. But what was shocking is he's only gone once over 30 touchdowns in a season in his career. And that was the 1 year where he threw for 41, I think it was 41 touchdowns. And that was the year in 2011 when he had Megatron on the team. So he is not a high touchdown.
Yeah, but look at, he's had terrible schemes. He's had terrible coaches and he's had a terrible team.
But he had Megatron for a few years before he retired. From 2009 to 2015, he had Megatron, and
that's what he was putting up. But
only 1 year. 1 year he threw over 30 touchdowns.
But he had a bad O-line, and he still would just huck the ball. Like Brady had a great year with Randy Moss. Only had one great year with Randy Moss. The rest, people started to figure it out, and we had a much better team. You just look at all these number one receivers. When it's all they have their look at Julio Jones. Monster games 3 times a year to pad his stats. The rest of it, double, triple coverage fizzles out. So for Stafford to put up all that, Megatron, I don't really,
He threw a ton of yards those times when Megatron was in there.
He's just airing it out.
I'm not arguing. I'm just throwing out some interesting numbers I was just pulling out. Because when you look at Goff's 5 seasons, 2 out of the 5 years were over 4,000, and the 2 years he didn't throw over 4,000 yards were he missed 1 game in each of those seasons. So he just missed 4,000 yards. So Goff, I'm just trying to make your guys a point. I think they're very similar in production. Like they're not apples to apples.
It's similar not though. Similar production means Stafford had garbage scheme, garbage team thrown to a great receiver, whereas Goff had an amazing scheme designed to make him good and put up the same numbers. So what you're going to see is Goff go to a garbage team and absolutely fizzle out into this, like he can go hang out with Ryan Leaf after this. And Stafford is going to have like a career turnaround. So there's your fantasy implication. I think Stafford's going to turn his career around.
All right. So you guys are making the case then, if McVay was able to elevate Goff's game that much, then taking Stafford, who was able to do this much with garbage.
Yep.
And if he can go in and stay healthy, R3's point, if he can stay healthy with McVay's system, with the talent around him, and he needs
a better receiver. He has Cup. He needs better receivers aside from Cup.
I'm insulted by that comment. But
I knew where you're going.
They have no money. I think what you got is is there at this point.
Well,
because
and Stafford just has to be serviceable too just from a team standpoint, how good, because Rams were a great defense last year.
exactly.
So if he can come in and
he's never had. He's never had a great defense.
As long as he doesn't screw it up, right? Doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, just does his job.
And again, he's prone to interceptions because, at that point, the scheme is just hurl the ball down the field to Megatron or Golladay. It's funny you mention the money. So they're paying. So Goff's money goes to Detroit, but so don't all the draft picks. They have a ton of expensive talent coming up over the next 2 to 3 years, contract wise, and they've dumped. Rams do.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a steep decline in the Rams defense over the next 2 years because that infusion of high-end talent is not going to be there.
So this was to win it this year. Their goal.
Right.
We're all in.
We have one more year with Aaron Donald and
Ramsey.
They have Donald, Ramsey. And even though they're under contract, they can't put the pieces around them to make it relevant. Like they're going to be in JJ Watt territory in a year or two.
Yeah.
Where they have super high contracts and they just can't justify it.
Donald, and they've been passing up on first round picks over and over. And next year they're not going to have a top if they are competitive. So I guess the big question is, do you guys think this puts them in the NFC Championship game?
No.
So they still can't get over Rodgers? Like it's not New Orleans next year. Is it Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship next year?
Yeah, between Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Seattle, Arizona's on the come up. I just, the Rams, meh.
It's Stafford. I mean, like I said, he's an okay quarterback. And he's never been proven to be a winner there. I mean, he could throw 5,000 yards, he could throw 40, but how many winning seasons did he have? Not many. I just don't think from an NFL standpoint, from a fantasy standpoint, he could end up having some good numbers.
Well, this is a fantasy segment. That's all we're focusing on fantasy. Is he worth taking as your first quarterback for your team?
No.
It depends on the round you get him.
So,
it depends on the circumstance.
My question is, if you had your fantasy strategy,
it depends
would you strategize and say, I'm going to take Stafford?
He's got to be a top 10 quarterback then in your mind. He's got to be top 10 next year for you to take him as your starting quarterback in fantasy.
That's what I mean. Would you go in there and say, I can get him? Because you'll get him late. He's not going to go early unless someone is reaching.
Well, so he doesn't have to be top 10, John. He has to be relatively close to somebody between 7 and 14 because the numbers don't have to be dramatic. Like you could have
You're
number
saying
11.
Somebody could get a backup.
No, I'm saying like if you have a quarterback on your fantasy team who's the number 9 quarterback overall in points and the number 12 overall quarterback in points fantasy wise is only 10 points difference. Like you don't need to have a top 10, but you just need to be close enough that if he's 11, 12 or 13, he's only, 15 points off.
But I think what Azar is asking is are you comfortable having him as your starting quarterback?
So here's what I'm saying is this year if you're in a position that like your position in the draft, say you're drafting closer to the back end and you take like 2 high-end running backs that are there, say somebody slides, and then on the way back around you Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, like those names all go, you don't necessarily have to reach. If you can put a team in place that you're taking the highest, like you get the top tight end, top 2 running backs, a top wide receiver, and then you're in the 6th, 7th round.
So this is the same, I think, same strategy that R3 took when he was drafting for Mute Boy's team. He waited too long. If you go into the season next year with Matt Stafford as your starting quarterback, you've already lost the season. You will not make the playoffs.
Wow.
You will not make the playoffs.
That's the Jarvis. Keep it simple. We're just saying, would you want Matt Stafford starting your team? That's all I'm asking. No, I know there's a 1,000 ways to get around the answer, but simply put, if you had him, if you landed with Stafford and you looked at the end of the draft and said, "Oh, Stafford's my starting quarterback," would you be happy with that decision that you made?
He wouldn't be my first choice, but if you were in a situation in the draft that your targets were taken before you were able to draft them and you needed to like shift your draft strategy, you could drop down and grab him, and several others on that second tier level and be within that top 10 range. So what I would say is if your draft gets busted rounds 1 through 4 and you miss out on Lamar Jackson, you miss out on Mahomes, you miss out on Kyler Murray, you can turn around and be like, okay, let me regroup. Let me see what's available that's better than quarterbacks I'm not reaching.
I noticed you didn't say
come back
Rodgers.
around.
You just don't want to subliminally put out Rodgers being drafted early. Is that
who else he didn't? He didn't mention Herbert either. His top 5 quarterback next year. It's a lot of quarterbacks in the league.
So I answered your question.
If you've waited that long and maybe you've missed out on a couple quarterbacks and you skip them and then you're stuck and you're like, oh, shoot, I need a quarterback. And you're taking Matt Stafford, then you screwed up. You screwed up somewhere and you waited way too long for a quarterback. That would be my opinion on that. I just think he's not the guy who you could go and throw out there. I mean, like I said, these days there's a lot of quarterbacks, depending on where Deshaun Watson goes too. He's another guy, right?
Well, he's threatening a holdout.
Who knows where he ends up, right? Who knows what Rodgers is going to happen if he holds out. So, but if everybody stays where they are, let's just say, right? We did this right with the top 5 quarterbacks. There's a lot of quarterbacks. You could still throw Brady out there. You could Mahomes, Rodgers.
You guys are just
Herbert, Watson.
My question was just much more simple. Would you guys take Matt Stafford and start him on your team? That's all I was asking. It's not really,
but I think Jarvis is going in more deeper where he's like, look, if you get to that point where you're in the 7th, 8th round and he's there, yeah, you kind of have to take him. But what I'm saying is if you do, then he might be okay for you, but he's not gonna win you anything. He's not gonna be the guy that you're gonna be happy with week in and week out to throw out there as your quarterback. Because quarterbacks score the most points for our fantasy football teams.
So changing the laundry doesn't change anything. So basically, at the end of the day, him changing his laundry doesn't change how you feel about it, because that's how you felt with Matt Stafford on the Lions. If you don't really want him to be your starting quarterback.
No, if Stafford ended up going to, like say Brady retired and he ended up going to Tampa, then the argument changes a little bit because they've got a loaded offense. Now I might consider Stafford being up there, but I
think you're underestimating their offense. Their offense is better than what you're giving them credit for.
Yeah, Woods kind of sucks.
No,
Woods does suck. Woods does suck.
I will pull up the stats again. I don't understand this blind hatred for a player that actually does produce over 1,000 yards receiving.
Well, we hate Mahomes too, and he produces. So what are you arguing against?
I need real fantasy co-hosts, like people that appreciate fantasy players, not biased because they're.
Azar, in a nutshell, I'm just going to say this trade with
Robert Woods sucks
in LA. That too.
They should have shipped him to Detroit.
It just doesn't tickle my pickle. I don't know how else to say it.
I don't disagree, because the more I thought about it, I don't understand. Like that was I know Goff they weren't going to win with Goff, and I get that. I just don't understand why you give up so much.
I don't know what they gained for Stafford. I don't know what they gained by giving up 3 years worth of top picks.
Why did they go all in for Watson then? Make a big trade for Watson.
Yeah, right. That
trade wanted to be all in.
That trade would have got Watson, right? Because they asked for 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and 2 defensive players. So you could have unloaded defensive salary, and you could have unloaded. So what? You would have been stuck with Goff. You would have been able to trade them Goff instead. I'm sure they would have flipped him and got out from it with Watson instead of Stafford. I think that's a fair criticism.
Yeah, I just don't get from an NFL perspective. I don't get the trade. I don't understand unless McVay sees something in Stafford that we just don't, and he thinks there's untapped potential there.
No, I think it was the other way around. I think he's more so his lack of faith in Goff that he was that panicked to get him off the team. He's a number 1 overall pick.
He's not the GM, right? McVay is not the GM too.
No, but
it just seems like
isn't it still Les Snead? Isn't he still the GM out there?
I'd have to Google it. I just don't get the logic behind that. And if McVay was pushing for it, to kind of like where you're describing, if McVay was pushing for it, it just doesn't make sense. But anyways, but that's the fantasy news. We'll give you our thoughts on the updated fantasy news. That's the nice thing about having a weekly podcast.
Still Les Snead. I was right.
Is it still Les Snead? We're providing fantasy content on a weekly level as things come down. So at least we can give you our insight. All right, so let's wrap it up here, boys. Any closing thoughts for the Super Bowl? Big meat?
My closing thoughts, yes, the Bucs are going to win. Brady's going to win his 7th. He will continue his Hall of Fame career. Mahomes will never catch up to him in Super Bowl championships because he will have one to Brady's 7, and we could all rejoice in that. By the way, I did want to mention one quick thing. I actually wanted to mention it last week, and we did touch on it a little bit about the draft, about quarterbacks. And I actually read an article this week that I was saying all along, why don't the Patriots end up drafting this guy? And that's that guy, Mac Jones from Alabama, right? He's a Nick Saban guy who we all know is buddies with Belichick. Had a 4.0 GPA, so Belichick loves like those smart quarterbacks. He's projected to go like middle first round, like right where the Patriots are drafting. It almost seems like a perfect fit. Now, I did read he did have a DUI in college, and that might scare some people away, but that hasn't stopped Belichick from drafting, DUI guys before. If you remember,
he drafts killers. He doesn't care.
If you remember Michael Floyd. Yeah. Michael Floyd was like, that was a big one when he
Dante Stallworth. Didn't he murder someone?
Dante Stallworth, yeah. So it almost makes sense. Like we might be looking at Mac Jones as the next Patriots quarterback of the future. I mean, it seems like
so. My take on that, and I'm glad you brought that up. My take on it refers to a little bit of what we got into earlier, that I think Belichick's ego is going to prevent him from making a rational decision. If he trades for Aaron Rodgers or any of these top quarterbacks, he's admitting that it was a mistake to let go of Brady because he needed a veteran, stable, established player. If he drafts somebody high in the first round, he goes against his whole draft philosophy of you can get a guy later for the same value if you know what. Like he just completely throws his whole.
Well, didn't he already do that with Cam Newton by taking a veteran?
No, because he was a retread. No, so see, Rodgers is top money. Stafford is top money. He gave up nothing for Newton. Newton fits the bill of like Junior Seau, Rodney Harris, and these guys that are coming in that are like their careers kind of fizzling out and they give them a rebirth. Randy Moss. That's who Cam Newton was. It just didn't work out. If you go and give the farm, and we have a very depleted farm, but if you give away the few assets we have for a quarterback, that's admitting he was wrong to let Brady go. He needs to take a quarterback that is handed to him at a value and win with him in order for him to be right. And I can hear Antifa boy, touting some D2 college, draft pick and, in the first round and how cerebral Belichick is. And I got to listen to that nonsense all night long about how much he loves the draft. And all of a sudden he knows stats on these players that like you ask him today, he doesn't know shit about college football. You ask him draft night, he's spewing off stuff about players that Belichick drafts like he's been following them for 4 years.
He called a couple guys in the last draft and was like, he called those guys. And all of a sudden since then he is the college football expert.
And they all suck. They all suck. Duggar, okay, he's had some cute little games, but
cute.
A lot of hate there. A lot of hate.
Come on. Do you see the guys we passed on for him?
Based on both your logic, we're going to end up with Ryan Fitzpatrick because he's already said he wouldn't mind going to the Patriots.
I would gladly take Fitzpatrick over Newton. At least you're going to end up with like a 9-10 win season, and 3 or 4 games are going to be absolutely Fitz magic. Like he's just going to light it up out of nowhere.
But to your point, to counter what you were saying, I get what you're saying. I somewhat agree to that, but maybe things change if Brady wins the Super Bowl and now there's more pressure. And it's not like he's drafting top 5. Like he's not getting like the first overall quarterback, right? It's still, if he ends up being there, where are the Patriots picking? 15th? Mm-hmm. They're like 15th. That's kind of where Mac Jones is kind of projected to go, right around there. So middle of the first round, it's not like he's. Right.
But he won't start him for a season. We'll still end up with Fitzpatrick as the starting quarterback.
And I'm going to use
it's going to be Cam Newton.
The only example I can think of, which is terrible, is because I heard it on the radio. It's stuck in my head. But like, is Mac Jones more like is he a value at 15, or is he going to end up like J.P. Losman or E.J. Manuel that the Bills, or Christian Ponder? Like, are we taking him just to take a quarterback there, or is he truly a value at 15? Like that. Because if he's not a value at 15, can we trade down, get him, but also accrue a couple of assets? Because we're in desperate help. I don't want to take him at 15 because, he's Mac Jones, he's Alabama. Let's take him at 15. If he's a late first round pick, or we can get him in the second round, like if that's where he truly should value fall, then I would support trading back as long as they go to take him. Not like the year they passed on Lamar Jackson for no freaking reason whatsoever. And it's just, that was the year they took Sony Michel, by the way. I think, you know what I mean? There's just a whole lot of bitterness in the draft. Yeah. But I don't want him to take a quarterback at 15 to say that I want to find the answer at 15. I want him to do what's right by the pick. If Mac Jones is the guy, get him to where his value is, trade down and get him. Don't take him high and then just be stuck with him, and we'll end up like that's how all these franchises suck for so long. They just keep drafting quarterbacks and blowing top picks. Trade down, get him to where you get something with value and him.
I can just tell you, I've listened to enough shows to talk about the Patriots drafting over the last few years. Their drafts have sucked. If you have any faith that Belichick is going to have a good draft, you're out of your mind. Big Meat, I like what you're saying. Ain't going to happen because Belichick doesn't draft well. He's going to pick these bums. We're going to end up with 4 tight ends drafted.
Maybe another running back.
Yeah, another running back and another shit receiver.
You know what's crazy is like
that's my closing thought.
He's drafted 2 running backs and a wide receiver in the first round, right? And it just so happens that they all suck, so we rag on him for it now. Like, he hasn't had a terrible draft history.
Yes, he has. If you go back to his last 5 years, look how bad some of his drafts are. They're terrible.
He usually hits in the first
and second round. No, the first round. Well, so like
maybe the last few years.
Sony Michel, hot trash. Isaiah Wynn, meh. You could have got him later on.
All right, we're going on a whole new topic, guys. I just want to let you know we're well past an hour and a half podcast. Why don't we do that for the next podcast? Let's go talk about the Patriots drafting, because we could do you pull up. I don't know why. I think the 2 shows are copying each other. One show, one talk show, did the entire draft over the last 5 years and went over every round. It was hot trash. And you're like, none of those players were good. So it's not like, he finds value. That whole argument, Belichick's great at finding value, deep rounds. Go do your homework. I'm telling you, we'll make this a topic, because I'm telling you, when you do your homework on it, it is frightening how bad.
Yeah, but you got to factor in undrafted free agents too, because he hits there.
But that's, again, draft.
Well, I mean, we could go on and on about this. I mean, he does draft late in the rounds too. I mean, it's just this, but we could go on and on.
Pull them up. I'm telling you, I sat through 2 shows talking about it, and I was almost vomited because I couldn't even tell you if any of those players even lasted a season. Some of them, how bad they were. They were terrible.
It's been terrible. He's had some really terrible.
Not his whole career, but the
last 5 years.
The last 5 years have been atrocious. So
it has.
But right. And the players that have been good are being like Chase Winovich has been good, but he gets benched for games on end. So it's maddening.
I think the worst thing, and I mentioned this last week too, my closing thought on that is the fact that, he's passed, he hasn't had a good draft, but the fact that you see all these other players going after where he's picking just completely just pisses me off, because it's the missed opportunity of DK Metcalf, Nick Chubb, Lamar Jackson. It's all these guys, and it's not just 1 or 2 here and there. It's so many, and that's just frightening.
Disappointing is a better word. All right, boys, enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy Mahomes' victory. Let the new era begin.
I hope you get slapped with a lawsuit for like offending Redskin people for rooting for the Chiefs.
Hey, Jarvis, you have some homework to do. You got to watch Wonka Vision. Watch Wonka Vision.
Wanda Sykes is on my DVR.
All right, good. All right, boys, have a great night.
Later, gents. Guys.